Welcome to Movie Heaven, Movie Hell with me, Simon Aitken.
And I'm Keith Eyles, and we are both independent filmmakers as well as lifelong fans of film, TV shows, and all things movie related. So
And
we're
we're
here to
gonna.
talk to you. Sorry, go for
Oh, we should get this patted down. And and we're here to talk about directors, talk about the films we like and hate.
Absolutely, and we are covering both directors, recent directors, and classic directors. So everything from Abrams to Zemeckis or Allen to Zeffirelli. um, and we're working through the alphabet on our first pass at the moment. And the letter we're on at the moment is
F.
F.
So, and it's F for Fincher.
Yay!
David
David
Fincher.
Fincher, we love you.
Oh my god, it's gonna be a love fest.
It
But
is, I
it
think.
is.
Yeah.
Well, he is one of those directors that whose career we've seen start from the very beginning, and we followed him all the way up to his current film, Gone Girl, which came out last year. It's nice to have that like connection because you've just seen him like it's like a child. He's grown in front of us, in front of our eyes.
Absolutely. I mean, he along with the likes of probably Tarantino or Christopher Nolan or somebody like that is, as you said, um, we've they weren't necessarily making films before we were born or when we were kids. We've sort of as adults grown up with these guys, and I'm actually pleased to say in this particular case, with a lot of the directors we've talked about so far, I've had to admit and throw my hands up and say, look, even though I've seen a lot of their films, I haven't seen every single film of theirs. But in this case, I can actually say that I have seen all of David Fincher's films and all at the cinema as well.
Unfortunately, I can't say that because I've still not seen The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo and Gone Girl, which
Ah,
I need to. I got to catch up with them. The only reason why I'm seeing The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo is because I enjoyed the original so much, and from what I heard, they didn't bring that much to the story that was different. So that's why I haven't really gone out there and watched it yet. But I'll catch up with it.
yeah,
It'll be on TV or something, or it'll turn up in a bargain bin somewhere, and I'll just go, oh, I'll pick that up and watch it.
yeah. I mean, that is very true. It's kind of I too am a fan of the original film and the original trilogy, and in fact, I really like all this sort of it made the whole Nordic noir, film and television, incredibly popular, even though it had been around for a long time up to then. But that was a sort of film that sort of brought that into the mainstream. And I have to admit, yes, I'm a fan of the original, and there's nothing wrong with Fincher's film. It's not much different to the original. It's a very good story in the first place, and they've just gone ahead and made it in the English language with some Hollywood named actors in it, but it's essentially the same thing. Um, but very enjoyable. So you should check it out.
Yeah, just a quick aside. I saw The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo at Fright Fest, and this was it was being shown on a Saturday, and it was like a really packed day full of films. And of course, to have this like 2.5 hour film, or was it 3 hours? It's been a
It was
while
nearly
since I
three
saw
hours, I think.
it's 3 hours. To have
Mm.
this 3 hour film in the middle of that was just like, oh god. And the poster they had was this really badly put together one, and it just made it look like some sort of cyberpunk kind of film. And I thought, oh, this is going to be terrible. But I went to see it, and as soon as I sat down to watch it, I was drawn in, and those 3 hours flew by. And I'm very happy I decided to watch it and not go off and have a break somewhere. Because, as I say, it was a very packed day.
Fair enough. I mean, as another aside, I know we will get onto Fincher in a moment, but while we're talking about the girl with the dragon tattoo, I did actually go to the cinema and watch the trilogy back to back, and I was a bit worried. I was thinking, God, can my eyes cope with that many subtitles in one evening? But they are an incredibly entertaining and well made trilogy of films. Although I have to say that the first part, the Dragon Tattoo part, is probably, I would say, the most interesting of the three films from my perspective, anyway. But yeah,
No, that's cool.
that's our little bit on foreign films. See, we
There you
don't
go.
only talk about Hollywood; we talk about foreign films too, aren't we? Good.
But yeah, so to go back on to David Fincher, he originally worked for ILM, which is Industrial Light and Magic, before moving on to form his own production company to make music videos. So throughout the 80s and 90s, he was making lots of music videos, big ones like Vogue for Madonna, or I'm trying to think what other was. Oh, of course, the Sting video for Englishman in New York. He was that guy who, if you wanted a glossy video, he was the guy to get for. Like the George Michael one, where they had all the supermodels lip syncing to the song.
Absolutely, I think that was called Freedom. Yes, Freedom 90, I think. Yeah, I mean, yeah, absolutely. Through working from a visual effects background, and obviously working with some of the big hitters that ILM, I nearly said IBM. My God, ILM would work with. Then of course, right from the get-go, he was learning the craft there, and went on to do obviously commercials as well as music videos, and do so very successfully, one might add.
That's right. And then, of course, his first foray into feature films was Alien 3, which he was brought on to very last minute after several directors dropping out, including Rennie Harlan.
Rennie Harlan, I think, was very early on attached,
Yes.
and then Vincent Ward came in and reworked the script, and then of course it went back to David Giler and Walter Hill, and then that's obviously at the point he got involved from what is known out there.
Yeah. But then after coming off the back of that, he came out with Seven, which was a film that totally showed off his credentials. I mean, it was an amazing film. I mean, I would say a comeback from what was like his first film, and just launched him as a director, which Alien 3 didn't, as a feature director. So if from there his filmography just got better and better.
No, I mean, absolutely. Yeah, he didn't have the best of luck, to be fair, with Alien 3, and we'll probably come on to that. But yeah, certainly Seven, amazing piece of work. Really got him on the map, and showed his style, which I have to say, having sort of rewatched a load of his movies in the past couple of weeks since the last podcast, which is a very enjoyable experience, because I really do like his films, and he is one of my sort of favorite modern directors, in inverted commas. I realized that one of the things that makes him really, I think, impressive with what he does is, yes, he sometimes has his sort of showy transitions between scenes, and is well renowned for fancy opening credits and very, very imaginative camera work that way. But by the same merit, he likes to work in his 2:35:1 aspect ratio, and he also knows when to just leave the camera on a tripod, as it were, and let the actors do their thing, and let the scene play out very, very well that way. So I mean, he's kind of got that balance. If you look at someone like perhaps Michael Bay, who's always very showy, and every edit and every camera move and every transition is a showy shot every single time, and everything looks amazing and all this sort of thing, compared to someone like Mike Leigh, that just sort of sets the camera up and lets the actors improvise and do their thing and captures it that way. I'd say somebody like Fincher is very good at sort of towing that line and getting the balance very right between as a film director should, in terms of letting the actors do their thing, but also letting the camera and the other things tell the story as well.
Oh, he's very good at camera movement. There's always sort of there's a purpose to it, and he's also very good at his space as well in the frame. So you can tell a lot of the time, relationship wise, how two people are to each other just through how they're positioned in the frame.
Absolutely.
I think we'll go into that a bit more when we talk about our picks. But
yes,
he's very.
Absolutely.
But the thing is, he is very good at he doesn't go for shaky cam that much, because he just wants you to see everything. It's very meticulous how it's done.
Yeah, it's not showmanship just for showmanship's work. It's actually it's always motivating story or character, which is exactly what it should do.
I mean, the problem with Michael Bay is it's like he can't keep still on anything, and so it's like, oh, look at this, oh no, wait a minute, look at this, wait a minute, look at this, and also his films have been compared to his shots, his camera work, as like visual masturbation.
Yeah, well, I mean, it is. The thing is, the shots are so cool that you've barely got time to actually appreciate them before you're on to the next shot. That's the thing, isn't it?
I mean, stuff as well as like, he shoots everything with a fetishistic angle. So, how he shoots the car is like how you shoot it in an advert, like he shoots women. I mean, the whole, was it Rosie Huntington's introduction in the third Transformers film, where the camera's pointing up to, from behind, pointing upwards, is very much like a paparazzi shot of somebody getting out of a vehicle. It's very sort of voyeuristic and, sexualizing. And it's just a woman walking. It's
yes, one of the few shots that I remember from that film, for all the wrong reasons.
Though at the time, seems that the amount of time that each shot's length was probably the longest he's ever had for a Transformer film.
Good Lord. Good Lord.
Terrible, isn't it? Anyway, let's get off.
Well, thank God we're past B.
Well, it's going to come round again, so maybe
it will. Yeah.
No, there's no movie heaven with that guy. It's all movie hell. Anyway, so David Fincher. Right. So Keith, what is your pick for movie heaven?
All right, you like me to start? Yes, I always forget that. You're okay. So well, it was a tricky one. Mind you, I find lots of them tricky. But I mean, I've really chosen the film that we're not supposed to talk about.
First rule, you don't talk about it.
It's Fight
second,
yes.
I mean, if nobody knows about Fight Club by now, it's just like,
Well, we better say that there's going to be spoilers for all these films. So if there is anyone actually listening to this that maybe hasn't seen any of these films, which is probably unlikely, but there will be massive spoilers. So maybe tune back another time.
It has been 16 years. I think you've probably seen it by now. 16 years.
Indeed.
Just saying.
Indeed. Well, right. I mean, the thing with Fight Club. Sorry, we've got this annoying delayed reaction today, haven't we, on Skype? So it's slightly distracting. But sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. What were you going to say?
Okay, I was going to start off with a story. So, when Fight Club came out, I was working in the cinema, and I was
Hmm.
very close with the projectionists there. Where sort of 6 months later, I actually did become a projectionist for a short while, and before the cinema actually closed down. But yes, I was working in the cinema when Fight Club came out, and there was a slight problem the first screening, and there's a bit in Fight Club where um, Tyler Durden, is that correct?
Tyler Durden, yeah, played by
Yeah.
Brad Pitt.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay. It just sounded wrong to my ears. Tyler Durden. Okay. It's just my pronunciation. Um, is he's on screen and he's sort of saying his speech, and the frame is going mad, and you can see like the sprocket holes that you get in film. And our
Yeah.
projectionist he was actually in the screening room because they always test the film. They always watch it the night before it starts just to make sure there's no problems. And of course, that comes on, and he begs it upstairs, thinking, "Fucking hell, what's going on?" And then, of course, when he got up there, the film was back to normal. And of course, he didn't realise, and nobody had said anything, that these effects were in place. That it was actually part of the film and not a problem with the projectionist, with the So
Yeah.
with the projector. So yeah, there was no warning about this, and I know that it was one of those films we were all kind of looking forward to, because we had the trailer playing, and you had the sort of fake advertising where they were talking about cinema rules, or there was another one about sort of airplane safety, if I'm remembering this correctly.
Absolutely. Yes, there was.
Was
Yeah,
gosh, yeah.
absolutely.
So yeah, so we were really looking forward to this film, and it was funny to think that it's caught a lot of projectionists off guard. But of course, there has been a film recently where they had the same problem, and that was Wes Anderson's The Budapest Hotel, because of the changes in aspect ratio.
Yes, absolutely.
Because the thing is, it's actually a 2.351 ratio, but within the story, but to each different time period, it changes the aspect ratio. So from the very earliest, where most of the story takes place, it's 4:3, and then 16:9, and then 2.35:1. So very confusing for projectionists. But the thing was, we didn't get a note with the film warning us this was going to happen. It was just literally put out, and we found out when we tested it. But that was my experience of when I was working at the cinema watching that film.
Excellent. Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, I hear you. I too have in the past had some experience in movie theaters when they actually, back in the day when it was on film and not digitally projected like it all is now. And yeah, I know exactly what you mean, and I can imagine. I knew a few projectionists. I can imagine them freaking out at that moment. So yeah, I mean, my thing with Fight Club, it's really funny actually that we get to tell these little stories. I almost feel like recording these podcasts. I'm kind of doing my memoirs. You know what I mean? It's kind of,
It is a little
but
bit
yeah,
like that.
yeah, it is, it is, it is. But Fight Club was sort of an important film for me because it was actually the very last film that I saw when I was living in the US prior to uh, my visa expiring and me coming back to England. So, so it was literally I saw it the night before I left, and you know, I'll be honest. Of course, I'd done the whole, like we talked about in some of the extras. I'd done the whole film school thing, and then got the work permit, etc., and very much wanted to stay in Hollywood and stay in the US, and thought that I'd be able to, and wasn't able to. So around this time, I was actually a little bit down, to be honest. I was quite depressed about the whole thing, and as a result, I had kind of missed a lot of the advertising leading up to Fight Club. I think I had seen one very small trailer. It might have even been a TV spot, and it just made it look like a materialistic insurance guy that meets a soap salesman, and they start a fight club. So it all seemed a bit like, what? That seems a bit bizarre. But the thing is, my mates, they knew it was one of my last nights in the States, and they sort of said, oh, come on, come out, let's go out, let's have a few beers, let's go and see this film. And I liked the people involved in it. I had obviously liked some of Fincher's other work, so I thought, yeah, what the hell, let's go. And wow, I mean, what a experience it was to see this, going in not knowing much about it. I hadn't read the novel. And straight away, it's quite weird, actually. Once it started, I actually thought for a minute that there were that the projectionist had sort of cocked up a little bit because of the very early subliminal Tyler
Oh,
Durden's that
Durden
appear
stuff,
on
yeah.
certain frames. you know, and I was just taken on this journey, and thought that this film was amazing. And it was kind of a good one to sort of, if you like, leave the US on. And yeah, so very, very, very good. It was obviously much bigger than what I expected it to be. As I said, I avoided most of the publicity prior to it, so wasn't expecting something that was so kind of anti-establishment and anti-consumerism, and just massively entertaining along with it. So very good.
That was the thing. That we didn't really know much about the film. I hadn't read the book, but I did after seeing the film, and I read it in one go. I don't read books much in one go. I do read books a lot, but just not in one go. Just clearing that up.
Well, that was how Fincher. Yeah, I mean, that was how Fincher became involved. Basically, apparently he was working on the game at the time, and his
Right.
agent contacted him and sent him the book and said, "Look, David, you've got to read this book. You've got to read it tonight. This needs to be your next movie." And he was like, "Are you kidding? I'm working on a movie right now. I haven't got time to read a book. What's the deal? I'm not going to do that. What's it?" And apparently he got sold on the idea by being told about the scene where they go into the supermarket, and he takes the clerk outside, and
Oh
basically
God,
puts a
yeah.
gun to his head, and basically says to him, if you what did you want to do with your life? Why are you doing this shit job? What did you want to do with your life? And he says about what he really wanted, and he goes, right, I've got your name, I've got your address. If you're not studying for this, then I'm going to come back and get you. And David Fincher said as soon as it was pitched to him that way, he had to go and read the book, and as you did, he literally read it in one sitting, and then went and pitched it to Laura Ziskin, who was the head of 20th Century Fox at the time.
Wow.
And he produced he said, look, this is how I want to do this film. I don't want a load of producers coming in and doing loads of rewrites and all this. I kind of want to make it as the book. And he created a sort of Bible of well, again, this is something about Fincher. He, in the early days, storyboarded absolutely meticulously. Something we've talked about, on extras and whatever, how important it is to have that plan when you come to set. And
Yeah.
obviously, since the technology has improved, he has animatics for everything that he's doing, uh, prior to filming it. So essentially, he's made the film in his head, as I always think you should, before he's even gone out and shot a frame of it, which I think is evident when you see the sort of quality and tightness of his movies out there.
Oh, well, a film like this, you need to storyboard it. There's just so much stuff because it's literally going shot, 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 shot. There's never a repeat. There's never going back to something because it's always moving forward. It has this wonderful forward momentum. You're always moving forward. It's
Absolutely.
always going from shot to shot to shot. And just, the amount of invention in there. I mean, the whole bit where it's going through the garbage can and he's talking about Planet Starbucks, or the bit with
Yeah.
the IKEA magazine, the catalog, and he's walking through
Fernie,
his
as they call it. Yeah.
well, he's walking through his living room, and you see the furniture appear with the descriptions popping up like you do in the IKEA catalog.
Yeah.
And it's all that kind of wonderful effects stuff, and as I say, just this wonderful forward momentum, and this whole idea of jumping around as well. So you're immediately into the mindset of the character because
Yeah.
you're not aware of where you are. He's a character who sort of, he doesn't sleep, and of course he keeps, I don't know, blacking out, and then 1 minute he's here and the next minute he's somewhere else and he doesn't realize how he got there. Well, we don't really know that because of telling a story via film. You miss things out and the audience fills in the blank, but in this case it wasn't the audience filling in the blank, it was another character filling in the blank.
Absolutely. I mean, this is the thing. It is such a multi-layered film, and
Yes.
there's so much going on. There's obviously a reveal as well towards the end of the film, and it makes you. It's definitely one of those films that incredibly enjoyable the first time round, but at the same time it's one of those films you can go back and watch again and again because you can experience it in a different way once you know the ending and once you know what it's about.
Well, Carl, we're going to talk about the ending because I think it's quite important to the story, but I just want to make the point that the build up to this, it was a film called Fight Club. It was about illegal boxing matches. You really, I mean, that was how the advertising was putting it, was that it was going to be about these guys who fight each other, and if anything, that's like the smallest part of the story.
Yeah, no,
I mean,
absolutely.
yes,
I
there
mean,
are fight clubs, but that's at the end of the day, it's not what it's about. What it's not about, it's Operation Mayhem. And the
yeah.
first rule of Operation Mayhem is you do not talk about Operation Mayhem.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, this was the thing. This is like I said, but where my mates had to do a little bit of a sell to get me to come and see it because exactly that. I thought it was going to be a film about, fighting, and obviously, which was one element of it. But yeah, I didn't realize it was going to be something so much more than that. And and an absolutely fantastic piece of work it is as well. Wonderful performances. I like the three leads that are in the film. Anyway, I like their work, but I mean, I think this is some of the best stuff they've done. I mean, to see Helena Bonham Carter, take on this role was so different to all the English Rose stuff that we'd seen her doing up until this point.
But I mean, have you not noticed though that I think that's what she's really well? No, okay. Ever since Fight Club, whenever you see her out in public, she does look like her. She does look like that
Oh
character.
yeah.
She dresses a lot like that character. So I think it was closer to her personality than all this sort of English Rose parts were.
No. I think Fincher said in one of the commentaries that when he met her, he was expecting her to be all a bit sort of RR and Royal Shakespeare and all this kind of thing, and he said she was actually a bit of a mess and then and kind of all over the place and didn't really have her shit together, and thought, oh, this is going to be perfect for this role. So I mean, and what a fantastic entrance with her, like turning up to a testicular cancer group smoking. I was just like, this is so wrong. I mean, the film is such a black comedy. It
Well, that's
really
it. I
is,
mean, after the opening, what's the first thing he says? Bob has bitch tits. Bob, played by Meatloaf.
Yes,
and the big
yeah,
moosey in the corner with the blubbery eyes, and of course he'd been on steroids, didn't he? And he'd juiced too much, and of course they had to put in like lady hormones or something to counteract it.
absolutely.
Or he was taking ladies' hormones, and that's just gave him bitch tits.
It gave him a nice, a large pair of moves. So, but yeah, I mean, a great performance by Meatloaf as well. One has to add as well. But
which is surprising after seeing to catch a Yeti.
Oh, I've not seen that.
Don't want to see it. It's terrible. Meatloaf's terrible in it, but he's really good in this film. I mean, I'll say he's great in Rocky Horror Picture Show. I mean, of course, I didn't know who Edward Norton was at this point. I know he'd done some films, but this was the film that really introduced me to Edward Norton and how great an actor he is.
Oh, right. Had you not seen Primal Fear?
No. Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay. Great. Treat yourself to that. That's very good.
That's the one with Richard Gere, isn't it? Oh, I remember it came out. It just didn't appeal to me.
Oh, right. Well, trust me, that's one you should add to your list to see. All right. That's all I'm going to say on it, because we'll stick with Fincher.
Yes.
But yeah, no, Edward Norton, wonderful performance. And yeah, as the sort of sardonic narrator of this story,
who has no name.
Who has no name. No, indeed. Until he meets, Tyler Durden. But, wonderfully played by Brad Pitt. I always thought that I know the idea was, you're supposed to be kind of a mess and whatever, but I always thought Brad Pitt looked incredibly cool in this film with his hairstyle and his wardrobe. And,
everything.
His sort of thrift store
everything
look.
was just sort of very quiche, wasn't it? That he was wearing. I mean, especially that sort of dressing gown with the big kettle on the back, or as the teapot.
Yes, that's right. And the mugs.
It's just it's so furry, not furry, but it just seems so rough and readied, and But that was just like the whole film. Brad Pitt's really good in it, and I was really surprised he actually filed one of his teeth for it, didn't he?
Apparently so. Yes. Yeah. he was borrowing from De Niro.
Well, I had read that on the lead up to it, but I just thought that all fitted into the whole sort of illegal boxing matches stuff.
Absolutely. No, it did, and he was very effective. I mean, all the performances in it were very strong. I'm also glad I actually saw it in the US, because one of the things they did do when it was released in the UK was, I mean, it was only very minor, but some of the fights actually got trimmed.
The fight with Jared Leto.
Yeah.
That would have been interesting. Brad Pitt beating up Jay Leto. I'm sure people would love to see that. Okay. Jared Leto. Yeah, I had a copy of the film from the US on DVD, and that fight just went on for ages. He just absolutely pummels him. And to tell the truth, really, well, my personal opinion, the UK cut was probably better on that fact, because it just didn't take so long. I mean, you got the point. He wanted to destroy something that was beautiful, because he also felt jealous of how the two were getting close to each other. And you didn't need to see it that long.
Well, yeah, but then again, it was supposed to be like sort of disgusting and uncomfortable, and I think that was kind of the point, So, I prefer to have it unedited, but regardless, the film works either way. So yes, and the film works very, very, very good. On a very good level all round. one of the things that I think the film didn't, and I know Fincher's talked about this briefly. The film sad, nothing to do with the film itself, but it did suffer release-wise
Yes.
slightly by the fact that the same year, but earlier that year, The Sixth Sense had come out, and again, spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't seen it. But the Bruce Willis character in that was dead, so
Yeah.
you know they went back and sort of re-showed the film play out, with that, which of course Tyler Durden, being a figment of the narrator's imagination, has a similar sort of play out at the end, which some people were like, oh, we've seen this. And obviously that's not Fight Club's fault, but that's just unfortunate, because of the release time. In fact, interestingly, also around the same time that suffered a little bit off of the back of Sixth Sense was David Coep, the screenwriter, directed a film starring Kevin Bacon called
Echo.
Stir of
I remember that
Echoes,
one. Yeah,
which was
that played
which
around the
was
same
also a
time. Yeah.
great film. But again, it had a few like similarities, and was often compared to The Sixth Sense. So again, sometimes these things are made and it's just bad timing or bad luck.
Maybe that was the fact that that Fox were not happy with it. They weren't happy with the film, how it was, what the final product was, and they were trying to bury it. It broke out more likely than it was released. They
Yeah.
really didn't
I mean,
like
was
it.
it Fox Searchlight originally? Was it Fox Searchlight, this
No, I
one?
don't think Fox Searchlight. Well, Fox Searchlight was around, but it was definitely 20th Century Fox that was making it.
Right. But yeah, I mean, the thing is, I think the thing was the executives and whatever probably didn't really understand what the film was about, because and interestingly, that they'd hired a director of, in his past, commercials to do kind of an anti-commercial film, which is quite ironic when you think
Well, it
about
is.
it.
Yeah, it is. But still, he made it's an amazing film, and I remember once it came out on VHS, me and my friends, we were watching that film all the time. We'd always go around people's houses and it's like, you seen Fight Club? Nope. Oh, here we got it. Put it on. We used to watch it a lot.
Well, as you well know, I love my little Easter eggs, and
Oh,
he always
there's plenty of them in there.
yeah. Well, one of them you don't even see all of them, but what I thought was quite cool. I mean, he points it out on a commentary, but again, you only see really one of the films is in the street where the coach comes in. They've got 7 Years of Tibet, The People versus Larry Flint, and Wings of the Dove. So they've got the three films of the three main, stars of the film up there, which I thought was quite
Yeah.
cool.
I've seen that. Right? Yeah, it's one of those sort of, but that was purposely done. That wasn't like a
Oh,
mistake. That
absolutely.
wasn't like seeing.
Oh God, no! It's an Easter egg. It was done on purpose. Yeah.
But I mean, there's been other times where film titles have appeared on cinema, well, on cinema boards, and it's been a mistake. They just happen to be there. Like,
Oh,
yeah,
really? Okay.
like having Bill Paxton, Lance Henriksen, and Vasquez in Near Dark walking past a cinema that's got aliens on.
Brilliant. Okay, that
It
wasn't done
was
on
not done on
purpose. No.
purpose. No, that was they
Oh,
just
right.
happened. It was very low budget. That to do something like that costs money.
Well, that was early Catherine
That's
Bigelow, wasn't it? Near
yes,
Dark,
it
I
was.
believe.
Yeah,
Yeah. So a great film, actually. I do enjoy
yes.
that one. Bill Paxton just really hamming it up and chewing the scenery, but in a good way.
But I have to say, I saw a film years later, and Clive Ashton showed this to me, and that was Santa Sangre. Now, why I bring that up is because Santa Sangre has a similar twist to the film. In Santa Sangre, it's about a son whose mother cuts off her own hands, and the idea is then he, in later in life, she comes back to him when he's in a mental institute, and he becomes her hands. But of course, it turns out all the time that his mother was dead, that he was, that her persona had sort of affected him, and he had literally become his mother. But it was this whole idea of having a character, a major character, who affected the story, turn out just to be the figment of somebody's imagination. Now, maybe that goes back to Psycho with Alfred Hitchcock, but you never saw Mother. Mother was always somebody referred to, but Mother was always sort of that shadow up in the window with the light going on. It was, or that just, you never really saw it. But with both Fight Club and Santa Sangre, these were two characters who affected the story, and you saw on screen. You saw a lot on screen, and you did not realize who they were. You just saw them as their own separate characters, and you didn't realize they were part of the hero.
Interesting. I've not seen that one. I won't bother.
No. It's well worth seeing though. It's a very good film. It's by Alexandro Jodorowsky, so well worth checking that out. Also, if you haven't seen it yet, you probably haven't seen it in this country, but you should check out the documentary about Alexandra Jodorowsky's Dune. It's a great documentary, and you just wish at the end of it you go, God, I wish I could have seen that film. As much as I like David Lynch's Dune, I wish I could have seen that film. It would have been amazing if they had been able to make it, but alas, we know it wasn't made. But so many good things came out of it, and one of the good things was Alien,
right?
Which I think doesn't lead us on to our next film.
I'm laughing at our podcast because they always go back to Hitchcock and Alien, don't they? Every single one of them. That says a lot about you and me,
yes.
Simon.
Okay.
Oh dear.
Is there anything else more you want to say about Fight Club?
Oh God, I mean, there is so much I can say about this. But
I know what I want to say. I know what I want to say. Can I just say this quickly? Did you notice that the opening credits to Fight Club was ripped off by X-Men? No, seriously, it was. It's exactly the same opening sequence. So for Fight Club, you've got the sort of the neurons firing, and you see the cameras following it until it goes out his mouth and then up the gun to, seeing him with the gun in his mouth. And it's exactly the same thing going on in the X-Men. I thought that was wow, Buddy Fox. What did they do? They went over. It was like Bryan Singer just sort of walking around, and sort of just happened to walk past the effects department in Fox and sort of saw them working on the opening credits, and was like, "Oh, I'll have that."
It's a homage, right?
But I mean, Fight Club came out first, so
indeed. But, no, that's very true. Now you mention it, yeah. So excellent. No, I mean, there is a lot to say about this film, but to be honest, it's probably not stuff that hasn't already been said. It is just an entertaining film with so many layers that you can go back and watch over and over. And I actually, even though I've seen it plenty of times, I actually did watch it again, in preparation for this podcast, and thoroughly enjoyed it. Still chuckle at the same places, and it goes by, and you think, oh, you get to the end, and you don't realize you've been, sat there all that time watching it, because it really is a enjoyable ride. So yes, this is why I chose it as my movie heaven for David Fincher, which, let's be honest, it's up against some pretty stiff competition.
Like my pick for movie heaven, which is Seven.
Yay!
Now, Seven, I saw on a date with my first girlfriend. It was a double date with me and my mate Kevin and his girlfriend. So it was. We drove all the way out to Hatfield to see it. Now,
because let's be honest, it's a real date movie.
Isn't it? It's probably why that relationship didn't last. But yes, I remember going because I had seen Alien 3 and I had been disappointed. And so yeah, but I liked what I saw from the trailers for this film, so I was like, yeah, I want to see this. I want to see what it's like, and it was, man, it was whew, such a breath of fresh air or dirty air. If you've seen the film, it was so great to see a director who had been so downtrodden by a studio to come back like that and make such a great film. And I personally think a masterpiece in, like, in crime thrillers.
I wouldn't argue with that. I would, it was very nearly the one that I would have chosen if you hadn't already. So I get it absolutely.
So, have you read the script?
I can't say I have.
did.
No.
I went out and bought the script and I read it, and the beginning's
I'm impressed
that I can read, or I went out and bought a script.
No, that you went out and bought and read the script. I'm well impressed. That's well cool. Okay.
Well, this at the time I bought it, I was, it was about 98, so I was getting into, making films and stuff. So
right,
I was like thinking, what scripts can I read? So I read this one. I read Usual Suspects, Reservoir Dogs, Pulp Fiction, and Clerks and Chasing Amy.
All good scripts, all excellent scripts. So yeah, so good ones to read and learn from.
Exactly.
Definitely.
So the beginning of the film is very different. What happens at the beginning of the script is that Somerset is looking at his retirement home out in the country. So it's all bright and lovely. And he cuts a piece of wallpaper. It's a little flower, which you do see in the film, but it doesn't really have the significance without the original opening for the film. And what happens is he boards a train, and as he comes back home into town, everything just gets danker and darker and decayed and more like the city we see. Now it was a very sort of long opening, very similar to, there was a similar opening, it's scripted for Blade Runner, where
they did actually shoot it. It is on the deleted scenes on the DVD and Blu-ray releases. So but they decided not to open with it because of that reason. I think that it was slightly slow. There was also, I believe, a continuity error with the costume that Freeman was wearing, so I think they took it out for that reason as well.
But I mean, the introduction we get is brilliant, because it just straight away, it's just about character. Somerset is somebody who notices things and asks questions that the other cops don't want to ask, because they just want to get on with the job and move on. So he asks the question about did the kid see it, and it's like, who cares if the kid sees it? His brains are all over the wall. And it's that thing where he does care, but it's just that he's been at it so much, he's gotten really cynical about it. And of course, there you get the piece of the line saying, well, we're glad you're leaving us, Somerset. And then we are introduced to David Mills, the character played by Brad Pitt, who is the young, enthusiastic go-getter. And what makes this film great is the interplay between these two characters and their different points of view, because they're coming from experience and cynicism and naivety and hope. And the two of them are clashing together over this one case, which is about, just showing how shitty the world is, using John Doe's words.
No, absolutely.
And we get into the 7 deadly sins, and what is so great that a lot of films didn't do it up to this point is you don't actually see the murders, you see the aftermath. And everything is left to your imagination, because the stuff is kind of grisly. And really, we don't need to, our imaginations can fill in that blank really well. It's better. It did that thing where it withheld seeing those murders, and you were just following the cops up to the third act.
No, absolutely. You know, I mean, one of the things that I liked about the setup for it, and the setup of this world, is it's one of these ones where it's never actually referenced exactly where they are. It's kind of in its own universe, in a certain respect. And one of the things that I love about Fincher, and this is all of his films, is the fact that he is really, really detail driven. He's much like a sort of Michael Mann, or a Ridley Scott to a certain extent. Is all of the attention to detail. I remember the John Doe's notebooks. They actually had someone go and write all of these notes and whatever handwritten in these books, and it's just little things like that. Also, in The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, one of the things they do very well in that is whenever there's information, and there's a lot, we're talking computer screens and post-it notes and photographs where he's sort of trying to build and recreate the crime and whatever. To make it realistic, it's supposed to be set in Sweden, yeah. So all of anything that's not relevant to the story is written in Swedish, but the stuff that's relevant to
Is
the
in
story
English.
is in English. And it's just those. I know, some kids say, "Oh, that's not realistic" or whatever, but it's those details and that attention to detail that I really love about his work. I love that stuff. As a filmmaker myself, I'm a bit obsessed with all the little details and stuff, and like it to be there.
I have to say though that it's rather excessive to have all those books being written in, because he only
Well,
opens
yes, it
one
is, but
book. So to have every
yeah,
book on
yeah,
that
I know.
shelf handwritten, that's, well,
Yeah, I know it's not necessary.
that was a shit job for somebody or some people. I hope they paid them really well to do that, because that's a really shitty job to do, to handwrite, because they're full. Each notebook is full, and probably had about I don't know, 50 pages, and they were written on both sides. That's a lot.
Yeah.
I mean,
But you never know. Some creative person in the art department or whatever may have absolutely loved doing that, because it was kind of
they might
their
have done it
their
first,
thing,
but after a while, that would have gotten old really quickly. But saying that, the opening credits for Seven are great, because they they sort of put you in the mind of this killer. You don't see him.
And they've been homaged so many
Yes,
times, haven't
yes,
they,
they have.
with other
Yeah,
films?
but I mean, at the time, it was an idea of, so you're doing the credits, but you're also sort of showing, the sort of mindset of this character that they're going to be chasing, because you see him peeling the his the skin off his fingers, so he's got no fingerprints. You sort of see him with the razor blade doing it, and then you see him with he's sort of making his notebooks and the pictures and stuff, and it's really, now that detail to attention is great, and just again, so you know what's coming is going to be, it's going to be nasty, and also it's somebody. This is the thing about the John Doe character, he isn't, yes, he is criminally insane, but also he's coming from a point of view that you can relate to.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
When they have him in the back of the car and they're, interrogating him or talking to him, he said, "What kind of a shitty world is this, that we see a sin on every corner and we just let it go by? We don't do anything about it." And the whole idea, I mean, I don't buy that people would have like studied this crime and, followed it and all that kind of stuff. Like he says it's going to happen. But yeah, I do love David Mills' reaction to that. It's like, you won't even be remembered. At best of all, you'll be like a TV movie of the week.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, again, it's just this wonderful interplay between Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman and their two points of view, and Brad Pitt's character David Mills is a hothead. He's the guy who charges in he makes the dumb moves and stuff like that. And there's the chase scene in it's great. I mean, that's so Blade Runner. That's what it reminded me when I saw that
No,
bit
it
there.
is, and
Yeah.
obviously Brad Pitt, hurt himself for
Yes,
real doing that
that's
chase.
right.
Broke his wrist, sliding off the car bonnet or whatever and hitting the windshield. And but what was good is they adopted that and put that into the story and made that part of the character, which was was about the best thing they could do, I suppose. But I kind of liked it as a touch.
They must have been shooting that film in order then, because if that had happened at the end of the film, they would have been buggered. You know, if they must have been shooting in
Yeah, well,
order.
one of the things I read about Fincher is within
Yeah.
reason, he does like to shoot in order wherever he can. I mean, obviously, it's not always possible or practical to do that, but I know that he has mentioned that he likes to do that when he can, from interviews and things.
Well, I have to say it's a good way of doing it. I mean, my personal experience of directing Blood and Roses, we did shoot most of that film in order. We had to go back to the beginning at the end because of two of the actors was only available. Well, we could only get commendation for them for the final week of shooting, so we had to go back and shoot all that stuff, which was a bit weird for the actors because they had gone through this transition from the beginning to the end, and then they had to go all the way back to the beginning again. But yeah, it's a good way of shooting.
It's the nature of the beast.
If you can do it,
Yeah.
exactly. I mean, if you've got loads of locations all over the place, then it is always comes down to scheduling. If you can get these locations at at certain times. But let's get back to Seven. I mean, also as well, this is one of the films that made Kevin Spacey, because there was this, and then Usual Suspects came out, and Kevin Spacey had been around. He was in See No Evil, Hear No Evil.
Yes, he was. Love that film.
And he was in Glengarry Glen Ross.
Yeah, which is a fantastic movie. Anybody who's into Mamet, that is just
exactly
great stuff.
But just never seemed to be able to get a break. And then these films came along where he was sort of playing these bad characters, and then that was it. His sort of career, he became a star. I wouldn't say his career kicked into gear because he was a big theatre actor. He was working a lot, but this propelled him onto the world stage, became especially in film.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course began a relationship with obviously with Fincher, that was ongoing, as with Bryan Singer as well. It's so yeah, he had a very good time around that sort of mid to late 90s area.
Yes, he did. He did. But he does. He made a hell of a character because he's not over the top. In some ways, he's very similar to Hannibal Lecter.
Yeah.
If anything, it's more the Hannibal Lecter from Manhunter than is from Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And also, apparently, again, Fincher had to kind of fight the studio on this because they wanted to put Spacey's name, along with Freeman and Brad Pitt's above the title, and they were like, no, we don't want his name to appear in the credits.
That's it, because it gives the game
until
away.
The reveal.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, good on him for sticking to his guns there and not sort of pandering to studio marketing and all that bollocks.
Well, this is it. I mean, there's always a lot of pressure coming from the studio to do things like that because they feel that anything to sell the film. But then,
of course,
it just
costs a lot of money.
It doesn't make any.
So,
it doesn't make any sense when it's him, because he wasn't a name at the time. Nobody's going to know it was Kevin Spacey. Who's Kevin Spacey?
Exactly. Plus, you've got Brad Pitt, Morgan Freeman, and Gwyneth Paltrow, all of which were pretty high hitters around this time. So yeah,
Gwyneth Paltrow, not really, not so much. That was sort of like one of her early film roles. She was dating Brad Pitt at the time.
That's right. Well, that's how she agreed to do it, apparently, because when she first read the script, she didn't want to be involved.
Well, exactly.
And, Fincher had a chat to try and get him to persuade her to do it. So, in fact, Brad Pitt was responsible not only for persuading her, but also for getting Kevin Spacey involved as well. I believe him and David Fincher became quite good friends and whatever, and Brad sort of helped Fincher cut through some of the bullshits around agents and contracts and all of that sort of thing to get the cast that they wanted. So good on him.
This is what I was going to say was there was a lot of reservations about the ending. Even the studio didn't want that ending, and it was very brave of the director to say, no, that's the ending I want. I believe even in the script writing stage, they changed it, that they had written another ending.
Yeah, well, apparently Brad, I've heard as well that Brad said that he wouldn't do the movie if they didn't have the ending that we had. How true that is, I don't know, but I've definitely read that on IMDb or somewhere, in the trivia section.
Yeah. No, it's a known fact.
That was apparently the situation.
That they wanted a different ending, and both Fincher and Brad Pitt sort of stuck to their guns and said, we're not going to do it without this ending. And and we wouldn't have gotten this. We wouldn't have got that line. What's in the box? What in the box? What's in the box?
One of the darkest endings ever, and but it works so horrifically well, and does make it an absolute perfect horror thriller.
It does, and as I say, it's like a gut punch to you at the end, to think, fucking hell, the guy gets away with it.
Life's not fair. And that film revels in it.
What's the ending quote? Yeah, the ending quote is was it oh shit, I usually remember it, but it's Hemingway, and it's oh, the world is a great place and worth fighting for, and then Somerset adds, well, I believe in the second part.
Indeed, yeah. Which only Morgan Freeman could deliver in that way. So, fantastic. Well, no, I mean, I'm 100% in agreement with you on this one. I think it is, if we have to define movie heaven in terms of a crime thriller stroke horror, this procedural, then this is absolutely you can't get much more movie heaven than this, I would say.
Well, before we move on to movie hell, I just want to say my favorite part of the film is when Somerset walks into the library, which the security guards let him in, and he goes, gentlemen, all these books, and all you do is play poker.
Yes.
And the guy turns around and goes, you want culture? We got culture for you, and starts playing Air on a G-string. And it's just amazing bit of music that plays over the scene where he's going through the books, trying to find out about Dante and all the levels of hell and everything, and the 7 deadly sins, and it's just great. And it's just sort of so uplifting in the middle of that film.
If there is anyone listening out there, and anyone who's particularly interested in learning about filmmaking and the craft and whatever, 7 is definitely one of those films that should be studied and looked into, definitely, because it works on pretty much every level that it should work on, and it breaks all the rules as well, because it knows about those rules before it's breaking them. And it's really is tight and great. Indeed.
Well, there's some great videos on YouTube. There's a lot of video essays about it, so they're well worth checking out. Especially one that breaks down the scene where they're talking about the first murder, Sloth, and Somerset is sort of giving his report to the chief, who's played by the gunnery sergeant from Full Metal Jacket, who also has some of the best lines. This isn't even my desk. Put the phone down. But just the placement of them on the frame, and sort of how Morgan Freeman is off to the right, and he's not even looking at Brad Pitt. And he's talking to but then he changes position in the frame when he does start talking to Brad Pitt. It's it's certainly a masterclass in framing of position and how that relays the relationship between characters and the state of that relationship at that moment in time. So, as I say, lots of video essays on
No,
Seven out
absolutely.
there, well worth checking
Absolutely.
out. Okay, so we have been to movie heaven. Now we shall proceed to movie hell. So, Keith, what is your pick for movie hell?
All right. Well, I mean, it's not unusual for me to, in these things, sit on the fence and say that I I struggled to find a hell. I did. A lot of people think that Panic Room is not one of his best films, but for me that always works
Yeah, it's all
quite
right.
well. Some people say Zodiac isn't great, but again,
Oh,
yeah, okay, it's
Zodiac's great.
exactly, it's inconclusive because it's based on a real unsolved crime. However,
Yeah.
it's a very great type film with some wonderful actors in it. So that was good. So yeah, so I had to sort of look at the lexicon and think, well, what is it of his that I won't say that I hate, but I say that I have a problem with. Maybe it doesn't quite work. It's not my favorite film of his. And it might surprise you actually, because it is a mystery thriller, which is, one of my sort of favorite type genres. And it's the film he did in 1997 called The Game, which was a film that he made between Seven and Fight Club.
Yes.
And, for me, this had all the elements of something that I should absolutely love, because it starred Michael Douglas. And, for me, looking in the past, for me, the 90s, Michael Douglas kind of was to the thriller, and playing the sort of everyman in a thriller, what sort of Jimmy Stewart was back in the 50s with, some of the Hitchcock films and whatever. And essentially, if there was a
Sorry, I
thriller.
gotta stop you there. I gotta stop you there because I just pictured Jimmy Stewart in Basic Instinct.
Oh, well,
That would have been a different film, wouldn't it? I have to say,
yeah, imagine that. Imagine if Paul Verhoeven got his claws into him. Yeah, absolutely.
but yes, Michael Douglas. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, and Sean Penn playing his younger brother. I mean, on the on the surface, there's a lot of things I do like about this film. There are a lot of things that work, and it's definitely not a badly directed film by any stretch of the imagination. The problem with it is it's really down to the script, because obviously we suspend our disbelief all the time in movies, and you can have certain buys that you can go with, but in my opinion, this one just went too far with coincidences, and one coincidence after another. Now, I think originally, I know he stayed on as a producer, but I think originally, um, oh God, my mind's blanking now.
yeah. It's the director of Breakdown.
Yeah, who I've worked with, Jonathan Mustow.
With
Yes,
there you go.
I think he was attached to this, and the writers, they were the same guys that went on to like write Terminator 3: Rise of the Machines, that he did
Well,
later direct.
yeah, this was originally going to be Jonathan Mostow and Carl McLaughlin
Right.
as the Michael Douglas character.
Yes, who's Nicholas Van Orton, who's a wealthy investment banker,
Yes.
who's kind of, quite a miserable character, ridiculously wealthy, but carries a big ghost because of the suicide when he was a child of his father on his 48th
Yes.
birthday.
Which is
Um,
all caught on Super 8 film.
Yes, absolutely. It's all. I mean, that's all wonderfully done. Actually, I kind of like I said, it's not. This film is not badly made. It's just a badly conceived idea.
Yes.
Um,
I mean, the first half of it is quite good, but then it sort of really falls apart, um, because it's this whole thing. So the idea of the game is that it's it's like Total Recall, where instead of you going to the holiday comes to you,
yes.
and it's supposed to be this life altering experience. And it's also something that they repeat all the time, but they cater for individuals. But the thing is, there's, as you say, there's so many coincidences that if Michael Douglas's character had done something completely different, the whole thing would have been ruined.
Yeah.
You can't plan something like that so perfectly.
No. No.
Um,
I mean. Whereas, in fact, it's interesting that you mentioned Total Recall, because one of the things I did want to say was, the other week when we were doing De Palma, and I said, look, I don't mean to sort of rag on all movies that take place on Mars. Well, there's an example. Verhoeven's Total Recall, I love. Yeah. So
yes,
I don't
yeah.
hate all Mars movies. I just thought I'd get that one in there as you mentioned it. But anyway, we're not on Verhoeven yet. So,
No, no,
no, no.
no.
So,
That's quite a way off.
yeah, exactly. But
Yeah,
no, but no. With regards to this, is yes, he gets bought this gift by his younger brother Conrad, who's played by Sean Penn. Um, it is supposedly also, even though he was in his mid-50s when he made this, but it was apparently it's supposed to be his 48th birthday, Michael
birthday.
Douglas's
Yeah,
48th birthday in the. And there's a company called Consumer Recreation Services
or
that
CRS.
CRS, yes.
Yes, which is
And
do you see those initials popping up?
you do. I mean, again, there are little Easter eggs throughout it, but the big problem with it is, and the reason that I've chosen it as movie hell, because I don't think it overall works, is it's a very interesting ride. There's a lot of exciting things happen in this film. There's a lot of mystery to it. There's a lot of action and suspense, and it's a really good ride. But the end, the payoff, the reveal, is actually incredibly disappointing. And not only is it disappointing, well, the reason it's disappointing is because it's totally unfeasible for so many reasons that we'd probably be here all night dissecting it in this podcast if we were trying to go through all of the coincidences and things that didn't work. But
Let's go over it. Let's go over it. So so he gets to a point where he's paranoid that that these guys are out to get his money, and that's how they're playing it. I mean, the bit where he goes round to the girl's house, so he meets this waitress,
played by Deborah
well,
Kara Unger.
yes,
Yes.
who I read that her audition piece was sending the director scenes from Crash, the David Cronenberg film.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yes, and they didn't quite know what to make of her, so they brought her in for an interview and see that she was really good and cast her in the part. But so he gets a note to say follow this girl, and they go on this. They get chased and all this stuff,
He
and
loses
he
his
then
£2,000 $2,000 Gucci shoes in an alley. I mean, this is the kind of guy he is.
yes, and and then it looks like they're trying to blackmail him with pictures of her and him in sort of sexual positions and stuff, which I have to say I don't. Well, okay, it wasn't. I think there was that, but he wasn't married. I don't know who he was divorced. So how that blackmail would have worked. I mean, okay, the drugs and everything. Yes, I understand that. If he was caught with drugs, then that would be pretty bad for him, but being caught with a girl in a room with pictures. That bit didn't quite make sense. That really didn't make sense. But anyway, so moving on, he tracks her down back to her place where she sort of tells him that there's, that it's, was it, he starts having, because he's so paranoid, he's having a go at like a smoke detector, thinking there's a camera up there, and of course she's like, no, keep your voice down, don't say anything. And of course they all burst out this van that says CRS on it, but it's like some sort of cable car or something like that, cable repair car, and start shooting at him. And it's like, they're going, oh, at the end she's trying to explain it, it's movie magic, it's squibs. They're shooting at his car, they're breaking the glass. It looks like real bullets.
Well, this is the problem. I mean, that all of these so-called sort of smoke and mirror things that they do as part of this experience, I mean, the chances of him not getting hurt, or even worse, dying in this process, are incredibly high.
Very high.
And there's a bit where he's in a car and he goes off into the river, and he'd found earlier, as a bit of foreshadowing, he'd found a handle that he could use to sort of unwind the window to get out of the car. But again, all he had to do was not have picked that handle up or put it in his trouser pocket or whatever, and he'd have been bloody dead. You know what I mean? So
but she explains that by saying that they had divers on hand nearby, just to, if he did get into trouble. But look, I want to let me get to my point. So they're being chased, and the whole idea is that they make out that all his accounts have been drained, and so he starts ringing them up to check this is the case. And of course, what he's doing, or what he's told he's been doing, is he's given them all the codes, everything to get to his account so they can drain it. And then this is the bit where he gets drugged, and then he wakes up in Mexico. Now, up to this point, it sounds kind of feasible. It sounds like, oh wow, this is pretty cool. This is a whole thriller where his brother's been sucked into this this world where he can't pay, and he's brought his brother in to try and get him out of it, and of course it's just not working because they just want more money. And to me, that sounded so much better than it being an actual game, it being a con.
Yeah,
but then I don't know how they would have concluded that.
Yeah, well, I mean, he gets back, and there's just so many, like at the end. My instant question would have been, well, what if he'd chosen to jump off the other side of the building? I mean, did they have airbags all around the building? It was just so coincidental, and it wasn't like you can buy maybe one, but it was coincidence after coincidence after coincidence. And I just felt, as I said, the journey very enjoyable, nicely directed, well acted, well made, a fun ride. But the Big Dipper at the end of that ride was a real anticlimax, and it was like, really, and you had a good actor like Sean Penn in it, who was frankly rather wasted as well. I felt, he was almost in it for namesake.
I thought he was very good in it, actually. The brief moments he was in it. I mean, sometimes Sean Penn can be quite annoying, but in this he was actually quite approachable. He seemed to be playing a decent person for a change, instead of some sort of scumbag or horrible person. This is the kind of characters he sort of plays. He actually seems to be quite personable.
Yeah.
Which you don't normally get. But yeah, I mean, there's so many points in the story that if he had deviated, that would have been it. I mean, what if he decided, fuck it, I'll stay in Mexico?
Yeah.
Or if the guy hadn't pointed out that he still had his Rolex that he had to, he could get money for, which, funny enough, was his father's Rolex that was a present to him on his 18th birthday. And you see the inscription, but he sells it pretty damn quickly.
Yeah.
For somebody who's hung up on his father, especially committing suicide on his 48th birthday, you'd think he'd be hanging on to anything that belonged to him. So I was quite surprised how quickly he sold that watch.
No, I agree.
He didn't just went, It's like you could get a lot of money for that, and the next thing he's eating tacos.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, it didn't, you know, it didn't quite work for me. So that, as I said
Yeah.
earlier, that is why I've chosen it as movie hell, in so much as it's not a film that I don't enjoy. And you know, I'm not necessarily saying it's a Fincher's made a bad movie. But you know, there's that saying sometimes, like you can make a bad movie out of a good script, but you can't make a good movie out of a bad script. And you know, I just sort of felt, for me, this was, you know, I'm all for suspending my disbelief, but this was just what one too far, and I just don't think that overall it made much sense. And you know, it was, particularly after a film like Seven, this was a bit of a letdown, I felt.
It's a good thing he made 7 first, because at the time he was trying to make the game.
Yes.
So if this had come out before 7, I don't think we'll be talking about him.
Yeah,
To the
possibly
truth,
not. Yeah.
I don't think it would have. I don't think he would be the director he is today without 7, because, as you say, the game is a very well made film, but compared to 7
It's
or Fight
mediocre.
Club,
Yeah.
it's mediocre.
Yeah.
And so it's, you know, it's such a shame, because he's a very good director and it's well directed, but the overall film is just it was a bit mediocre.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, certainly to the films either side of it, which are the two we've talked about, you know, Seven and Fight Club. This one, if you look at it in the order of his films, this one is a little bit of a letdown. I feel, and it was tough to choose a movie hell, but you know, I'm quite satisfied that picking this one. Bearing in mind there was another one that I couldn't pick, picking this one, I felt was probably the right one. And you know, I'm sure there's people, if anybody is listening to this, screaming, you know, in total disagreement with me. This is purely my opinion.
And I agree with you. I actually I went back and I watched it because it had been quite a while. I mean, I think I watched it when it came out on video back in 97 or 98, and I don't think I had been back. I had seen it again since then, so I went back and watched it. And for the first half, I was like, I'm going to disagree with Keith on this one. I'm really enjoying this, and then it hits that point,
Yeah.
and you go, actually, no, I can't. It's really, once you get into that third act, it really falls apart. I mean, it's very well put together, the whole sort of setup, and then the execution is pretty good. But then once you get into that third act, that's where it falls apart, because there's so many points where, as I say, he could have deviated, gone the wrong way, decided to do something else, and then you know, that would have you wouldn't have got the same life altering conclusion that they have.
No, exactly. I mean, you know, when I was because I rewatched it again as well, and I was sat there thinking, "Oh shit, have I made a mistake here? Should I maybe text Simon, try and come up with something else, and all this sort of thing?" And I thought, you know, as soon as I got to the end of the film, I thought, actually, no, I'm sticking to my guns here. This doesn't work. So, movie hell. There you go.
So, my pick for movie hell. I think you can guess what it is, because there's really only one other film in his filmography that you can consider to be bad.
Oh dear, yes.
And that's Alien 3.
We always come back to the Alien franchise, don't we?
We
the
do
frustrating
indeed.
Alien franchise. Yes, indeed.
Started off so well, first two, but then became an important item to Fox, and that's when it fucked up. Because Fox then took instead of leaving it alone and let the directors get on with it, they start becoming interfering. Yeah, so the advertising for Alien 3 was, you know, this time everybody on Earth will hear you scream, that the aliens were going to come to Earth. And I'd read a lot of the comic books, and a lot of this had taken place with Earth involved. And so I was looking forward to it.
Yeah, they were trying to stick with the whole this time thing, wasn't it? You know, like, because they'd done this time it's war for aliens, and obviously in space no one can hear you scream for the first one. So yeah, they tried to sort of be clever and mix the two, but it didn't really make sense, did it? Because it didn't end up being that.
No,
So
it became a prison planet. This sort of rundown, no technology works, kind of trying to go back to basics, but then having too many characters. Now, when I was at Panico, studying film, there was a guy there who loved Alien 3, and we'd always have arguments about it because he thought it was great. I said, well, no, there's too many problems. For one, you can't differentiate characters when you see them because they're all bald.
mhm.
And any characters you have a connection to are killed off within the first hour. I mean, Charles Dance's character is the only one we really sort of get to know. And then once we find his backstory, he's killed.
No, absolutely. Yeah.
And you're like, oh, okay. And then the other character that you really liked, Brian Glover, he gets killed.
Yeah.
And then you're left with all these other people you didn't even really know about. Apart from the leader of the prisoners. He's the only one you sort of kind of knew. But you didn't know so much. And of course, he then has to sort of carry the weight of being a character we sort of get to know throughout the rest of the story.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, I kind of had sort of problems with it, from the get go, because of course, killing off Hicks and Newt after they'd set them up so beautifully in Aliens for one, and also, it didn't make a lot of sense because where had the face hugger come from? Had the Queen at the end then managed to put that on the EEV? But I had problems with the fact that whereas James Cameron, I mean, I always wax lyrical about James, but the fact that he kept everything from the Sulaco. He kept everything from the Nostromo escape pod right down to the fact that you've got the harpoon gun that Ripley fires still stuck in the bottom of the hatch when they come and rescue her from her hypersleep and whatever. What they do in this film is they change everything, which makes no sense. So suddenly she's in a different cryopod to what she was in at the end of Aliens, which really bothered me. Little things like that straight away.
Saying that, I did like the montage at the beginning of the credits. I thought that was really well done, and I thought the music was really good in Alien 3. I thought I did actually like the music.
Was it Elliot Goldenthal?
Yeah. Yes, it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I thought the music in it really worked, and it sort of sold that kind of edge of space, kind of no man's land, and faith all thrown into one mix through the music. I thought it was really well done. But there was lots of stuff in. Now, again, I'd seen the comic book, and the idea was that the face hugger had attached itself to Newt, and that's why there's the acid on the outside of her cryopod, because you remember they found the acid burn on Newt's cryopod, not Ripley's.
Yeah.
And so the idea was that Newt was impregnated, but she drowned, and the embryo actually swam out of her mouth and swam into Ripley's mouth. Now, of course, that makes no sense because it's an embryo. It wouldn't be able to do that.
That's not clear either. No. I mean, yes, I agree with you. You get this sort of opening montage with the credits, if you like, that sets it all up, but it doesn't make really what happens particularly clear. In fact, if anything, it's confusing almost.
Yes, because there is a fun little thing at the end of the special edition of Aliens, because the special edition of Aliens came out just the year before Alien 3 was released, and that was sort of where you saw, I first heard about Alien 3 being made, because I'd heard about the director's cut of Aliens, that there was all this extra footage. I believe it appeared in the News of the World. There was photographs screen grabs of scenes that were cut out of Aliens, including Newt's father with the face hug on his face. And so, you know, when it came out on video, first day, bought it. Got my mum to go out and
me
get it
too.
for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
But at the end of the credits, you can hear an egg opening on the special edition, and that's kind of like the thing that ties it in. So the idea is that the alien queen, as well as hiding herself, she's laid 2 eggs. One's a queen, and the other one's a warrior, a protector. How she had time to do that, and also attack Ripley and Bishop and Newt, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I really don't know. But there you go. They were on there, and of course they smuggled themselves onto the EEV and crashed on Fury.
Yeah, which happened to be another Weyland-Yutani prison colony. Again, with the whole alien and the escape pod going and all this sort of thing, it did all seem, you see, even this reeks a little bit of convenience all of a sudden, you know what I mean? Storytelling convenience rather than sort of feasibility. But I think this is the problem when the script is constantly being rewritten and reworked, and this was constantly being done on this film.
Oh yes, a friend of mine called Nick Hughes. He had a scriptwriter friend who told him about a version that he wrote of Alien 3, and the idea of that the aliens, that it was set on Earth, and there was like a space station that was connected by like a massive cable, or it was something that connected the Earth to the space station. And the idea was that the aliens were in the space station and they were trying to make their way down to Earth. And the whole idea was that Ripley and Hicks was trying to stop them getting down there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, everybody from William Gibson to Eric
Yes.
Red to David Thwoy, so many people were involved in a draft of this film before it went back to Hill and Geiler.
There was one version where the aliens were a virus that could affect anything, turning anything into an alien. So turning, like a piece of technology into an alien, which, I mean, fucking hell, that would have been really shit. That would have been Prometheus.
Yeah.
I'm glad they didn't go with that. I mean, it seems to be like a natural idea, because the one thing they always did with Alien and Aliens was progress the biology of these creatures, but then comes Alien 3, they were actually regressed. They went back.
Yeah.
Because they wanted to go back to a more alien sort of situation where it's a group of people who can't defend themselves that well having to deal with this creature. I mean, the acting in it is all right. It's good. I think Sigourney Weaver's really good in it, because she is left to sort of carry the film by herself. And I think if she wasn't in it, that it's just really wouldn't have worked. I think, there's a lot of good British actors in there, even though a lot of the times their sort of roles were kind of confused.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look at Paul McGann's changing accent and the fact he also had a part of the story cut out. So he just disappears in the theatrical cut. And we're talking about the theatrical cut. We're not going to talk about the assembly cut that came out on Blu-ray and DVD, because it does actually make the film better. But again, that wasn't David Fincher's cut. And in some ways, this isn't David Fincher's cut either.
Oh, totally. I mean, I was fortunate enough towards the end of last year to coincide with Gone Girl, which is a great film as well, by the way. Fincher actually did a Life in Pictures at BAFTA.
Okay.
And I was lucky enough to have a ticket and go along to that. And obviously, it's he talked about his career, right from the start, right the way through to Gone Girl, where he was now. And they did touch on the Alien 3 saga, which he didn't talk talk about too much, but he basically just said that things were changed and rewritten on him on a daily basis. Plus, he had loads of trouble because he was quite young at the time, getting any respect from any of the other crew or producers, and there were just so many things that went wrong. Hence, why he's had no participation whatsoever in any of the DVD or Blu-ray releases,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
he's the only director out of the four that hasn't gone on to sort of offer commentaries or be interviewed about it and things of that nature. So I think it really was a very painful experience for him by the sounds. But he didn't go into too much detail. He moved very
Yeah.
swiftly on and started talking about Seven, and rightly so. Yeah, but it's interesting.
Yeah, I've met Charles DeLuca, who he makes the documentaries for the Alien films, and he also did Dangerous Days for Blade Runner.
Awesome.
And yeah, and he said Fincher just did not want to know. He absolutely did not want to know. And he was saying that he actually saw him in a cafe once, and he thought, should I go over and say something to him? And he decided not to, because he kind of respected the fact that that he was burnt out by this thing, and if he could live to the end of his days without having to answer any questions about it, he'd be a very happy man. So that's, yeah, they sort of respectfully said okay. But they did put there is a bit of footage in the making of, the sort of 3 hour making of on the Blu-ray that's extra, that wasn't in the DVD, and that was David Fincher making a quip about Fox. He sort of, this shot is he grabs the mic and says something into it. I can't remember what it was, but you could just see his frustration.
Well, the trouble was, I so wanted to love this movie because, Alien and Aliens are, as we've already discussed on like the first podcast we did, they are amongst my favorite movies ever, and I so wanted this one to work, and whereas there are good elements with it, overall it is a bit of a disappointment, really, isn't it? And I watched it. I watched the theatrical version only last week because I'd seen obviously the assembly cut and whatever more recently, and I did sort of think to myself, there's some good stuff in here, but overall it is a bit of a mess, really, which is a shame.
Yeah, it is a shame. And I mean, a lot of British actors in there and stuff. There's a chap in it, a black actor called Leon Herbert.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I've never met him, but I know of him, and that was because of a TV show called Movie Versions that was shown on Channel 4. And for the life of me, I have tried to find this series because it was great. Because the idea was they took a film that had a budget, and they took a film with no budget, and they compared the two of them. You saw how each one got made. And Leon Herbert made a film called Emotional Blackgammon, which was the no money one. And it was just, it was interesting to see, and he was a character to follow. But yeah, he had appeared in a few films. He had appeared in Alien 3. He's the, when they're going down the tunnels and they're lighting the candles,
Mm-hmm.
and they keep going out. He's the black guy there doing the sort of really bad American accent. It's really thick. But yeah, he had done that, and he had worked on Scandal. But yeah, it was kind of interesting to sort of see him, or as a director, working on his low budget film against this other film called Sorted,
Right.
which had like a $1 million budget, and didn't look that great at all. But was the first film that had Sienna Gilroy in it.
All right. Yes, who's gone on to do a fair
Yes.
amount of stuff now. Yeah, she was in Fortitude quite recently. Yeah.
Yes, I sort of remember her in Resident Evil Apocalypse.
Yeah, oh, that's right. Yes, and she came back, didn't she? She was in a couple of them. Yeah, yeah.
But she looked exactly like the character out the game.
Yes, so I understand. Or at least in one film she did. And then in the other one, completely different or something. But we've already done poor W.S. bloody Anderson.
Yes, we have, haven't we? Yes, yeah. But right. Well, let's wrap up on this. I mean,
okay.
yeah, it's. I think if you can take anything away from this film is that you know, studio interference, especially when in a production phase, is so destructive, and you can see the fingerprints of the studio all over it, and it's just it's a mess of a film, and its problem is you just really don't have the time to get to know the characters that you should be caring about, because there's just so many people. I mean, it's just this weird thing where the people you get to know get killed off very early, and the people who are really the fodder to be killed off are sort of left towards the
they're
end.
saved to be killed off with the alien chase at the end.
Yeah. And it should have been the other way around, because by this point you just don't care.
Yeah, the dog stroke ox stroke dog alien, by the way, because again,
yes,
all of that is
running
confused
on ceilings
as well. So
yeah. Unfortunately, the a lot of those shots just doesn't work now. It's not CGI; it was puppetry, but it just really looks awful now. But I was going to say, great performance by Sigourney Weaver.
Yes.
This wonderful sort of her sort of coming to terms with her relationship with the alien. But and should have been ended there. That should have been the end, with her diving off at the end.
But of course it wasn't.
Before we finish, I have to ask, Bishop at the end, human or android?
Well, I mean, again, this is where it's ambiguous, isn't it? Because you see red blood as opposed to the sort of white fluid that the androids have, but at the same time, the way his ear is sort of hanging off, and the fact that he's not unconscious from being whacked over the head with a fucking great spanner, kind of suggests that maybe he's an android. But it's ambiguous.
I would say he's an android.
It doesn't make sense.
He's an android. He's an android. He's an android sent by the company, and Sigourney Weaver's right not to trust him. But I mean, a shame what that film could have been. Maybe we'll get that. Maybe we'll get this with Alien 5, the Neil Blomkamp version. It's going ahead. It's got Sigourney Weaver in it. It's got Michael Biehn in it.
And has it got Michael Biehn in it? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. Okay.
Have you not seen any of these concept
drawings? Hold on. What happened with the bloody great girder that was through his chest then?
Well, it's one of those things. They're doing like a Star Trek or Terminator Genesis where they've just changed it.
Yeah. By the way, something on that note, actually, what was quite interesting, I still remember chatting to loads of my mates about this after Alien 3, and it was probably some years after. I'm thinking it may have been really early internet, but I'm not sure about this. It might, it was certainly before blogs and chat rooms and things of that nature. But there was some sort of document going around about Alien 3 being Ripley's dream whilst in the sleep.
Yes, I heard this.
And it explained things like why the continuity wasn't correct, and why she landed on a planet which was all men and she was the only female. Even Newt had died, and it sort of explained all of these things as to why it could have been a dream, and they were trying to do that whole sort of fucking Bobby Ewing thing, I think, with the franchise. but
well, it's more like a Twilight Breaking Dawn kind of thing now.
No, absolutely. But yeah, so they were even as far back as mid 90s or whatever. This was being discussed, and I don't know whether it was a fan created thing because people were
It is
frustrated.
it's a fan theory. It's a fan
Yeah.
theory. It's very much like this fan theory going around at the moment that the whole of the Disney universe is connected, and this comes from the fact that two characters from Tangled appear in one shot of Frozen.
Oh, right.
And there's this whole fan theory that the whole Disney world's connected.
Wow. This is all above my head now, I'm afraid.
I know it's a lovely idea, but it's not. It's not connected. It was just an Easter egg put in there for people who spot it. But then all these theories about how Elsa's parents got killed in the storm because they were going off to this other country where Tangled takes place, and you go, bloody hell, you're putting too much into this.
Yeah,
you're overthinking this too much.
Slightly overthinking it. No, absolutely.
As the film says, let it go.
Let it go. Absolutely. One last thing about Fincher that I would like to add, actually, simply because it's something that I've been harping on about now for years, and it was something he actually said at the Q&A, or not the Q&A, the talk that he did. They asked him at the end about the fact that he, like, let's be honest, most actors, producers, writers, directors have all done it. The sort of transition over to television with his involvement with House of Cards. And he said, and this is the sort of thing that I totally agree with, and what I love about it all is he said that in his opinion, television is the medium and the place to explore and develop character. He said, whereas your movies are your big sort of event, high concept, plot driven, things, which obviously, yes, of course, they're about character as well. But he's saying that because of the amount of time you get to develop television and the amount of hours you get of screen time and whatever, it really is the way to explore character, and that's why he loves working with Kevin Spacey on that show. And I just thought that was really cool because I'm a massive movie fan, but definitely in the last 15 years or so, I've loved this emergence of bigger and better quality television, and definitely like the cable shows sort of being that lovely sort of mid ground between movies and TV that sort of allows you to take all those film type risks, but gives you like 13 hours to tell the story. And I just thought, I don't know why I'm throwing this in, but it was a comment that he made, and I just thought, I'm going to bring that up in the podcast.
Well, let me just add that it's the ability now to watch things in bulk, bulk watching, binge watching. The ability to sort of sit there and for 10 hours straight, you can watch a TV series like Game of Thrones or Daredevil.
I did it with Daredevil recently, actually. Netflix did this thing where they released all 13 episodes in one go. And I literally spent an entire Sunday and watched all 13 hours of it in one go. It was with the odd toilet break and nibbles, but thoroughly enjoyed it. I did too.
TV is now taking up the middle ground that used to be taken by the sort of mid-budget feature film. It's funny how people won't sit through 3-hour films, yet they will binge watch for 10 hours or 13 hours or 16 hours on TV. And maybe it's because it's the writing, maybe it's because it's the stories, maybe it is the ability that just to have that time now to sort of build characters. But it is funny that people complain about films if they're too long, but yet now we'll watch binge watch TV.
Yeah, no, it is interesting.
I guess it comes down to the point that that each episode is 45 minutes and has a beginning, middle, and end, but it continues. So you can stop at the end of each episode and know that you're not going to miss the whole thing, where with a long film you have to sit and watch it, otherwise you will if you stop it in the middle, you got to come back, and you're back in the middle instead of ending it on an episode. But yeah, no, it's because they're now putting the money in it and the resources, and that they're getting the actors who normally would be doing films. And
Oh, totally.
Film actors doing TV who probably would have been retired by now because they're not getting the roles they used to.
No.
And now they've embraced TV in a massive way, and it's and we're sowing the benefits of that. But also we are seeing the demise of the middle ground film, because the kind of stories that would have been told in that, they're now being made as TV series.
Yeah, I guess that's bad news for guys like you and me, isn't it? In some respects.
Because all we're being left is the no budget film or the high budget film.
Yeah, you've got like the crazy blockbuster films, at the cinema, and
the indie breakout.
Yeah. And you're right. The television is kind of filling in that middle ground, because obviously it's no longer the small screen anymore, because the quality has gone up, and the size of the average size of television screens has gone up immensely. But also because of the fact that you can kind of watch stuff wherever you are, whenever you are now, and it's interesting. But as I said, there's another massive long debate and another podcast there probably, but I just thought I just like the fact that Fincher, a highly respected film director, has, as many of them have, moved across into television. And when asked about that, that was absolutely his response to it. And I just thought, that's really interesting. So as we were talking about Fincher, I thought I would mention it here.
And certainly a way to end on.
Indeed.
So that was Movie Heaven, Movie Hell with David Fincher. I've been Simon Aitken, and
I've been Keith Eyles.
You can find Keith's work at...
Yeah, if you go onto YouTube and you put in British Eyles, that's Eyles spelled Eyles, as in my surname, you'll find some of my work, some of my short films that I've made up there. And I believe there's also a link to that Simon's very kindly attached to this podcast.
Yes, it's in the podcast notes, so you can find the direct link to Keith's work, and you can also find the direct link to my work on YouTube and on my website at independentrunnings.com.
Okay.
Please do check out the Facebook fan page we have, which is Movie Heaven, Movie Hell. And also check out our Twitter, which is at Movie Heaven Hell. Thank you for listening, and join us for our next director.